right, man. So, how have you been and everything? Been doing good?
Yeah. Just, busy, especially with the Flit announcement video thingy going out the other day.
Oh, I'm sure. It looks really cool.
I'm glad you think so.
Um, yeah, so I guess I'll just go ahead and sorry, I was going to ask you you know, how do you feel about the reception with Clive and Wrench overall after it was released?
Yeah, I think I feel pretty good about it. Kind of had a bit of a rough, mixed review start, but it found its
Yeah.
audience, and people seem to, or the people that actually gave it a chance, seem to enjoy it,
Yeah.
and so that's good.
Yeah. I mean, I really had a good time with it. I played it. It was pretty cool getting the opportunity to review it. As my first game that I ever got a code review. It was such an odd thing because I saw Numbskull, the who was your publisher, right? The
Yeah,
Numbskull,
yeah.
yeah. I saw them. They made a post, and then I was like, "Ooh, here's my chance. I'll just go in here and I'll message them and whatever." And I got a message back, and whoever the guy is that runs the, I guess, social media stuff on Twitter, um,
I guess it was probably Mark at the time.
probably, and uh, he was like, so for streaming stuff or something like that, you have to wait till this date, blah blah. And then I was like, well, I'm not a streamer. I was like, I actually make reviews and stuff like that. And then they went and I got a message back, and he's like, oh, well, you actually make some pretty cool videos. So here you go. I'll give you a code. And I was like, oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, I think that was
um,
the whole idea of it, was that wasn't just like approaching all the biggest names
right.
and that was the end of it. It was like approaching people that are going to give a fair and interesting like
Yeah.
insight, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I think because you commented on my review that I did, I think I did a pretty good job at being as unbiased as I could, given the circumstance of uh, receiving a free code and being a huge fan of 3D platformers. There's always
Yeah,
an air of bias there, obviously, but
sure.
I tried to point out some things that issues that I had, blah blah blah, which I didn't have as many as some other people claimed, but I'm gonna be honest with you, that's just like an issue that I have. I experience that with a lot of games where I don't have nearly as many like bugs and glitches and issues as other people have. I don't know why, but it has always been that way. I can't explain it.
It's just one of those things, and it's always like playing a game is such a subjective
Yeah,
thing. I think that's why game reviews especially are so difficult to like pin down, predict, but also even just make, because
yeah,
your experience is always going to be different from somebody else's.
100%. Yeah, that's the challenging part about it. I actually got a little bit of flack in the comment section that someone said that I wasn't being critical enough. And I was like, well, I don't know what to tell you. I was like, I'm not trying to come in here and just like tear him apart or something. Like that was not my intention, and I don't feel that that is deserved. I stated the issues that I had, and that's about as far as I go there. I'm a little bit more positive than most, so I kind of tried to focus on that.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I mean, obviously that works for me in that situation,
Right.
but
Yeah,
like even as somebody watching a review like that, I don't know. I'd always prefer to hear more positive spin on
yeah.
it, especially if it's something I'm interested in.
And I mean, I watched like several reviews that came out the same day as mine. I mean, the large majority of the ones that I watched were still pretty glowing towards your game, and they I mean, I don't think any of them were like crazy critical. There might have been a few that were a little bit harder on it, but for the most part, everybody seemed to really enjoy it.
Oh yeah. Don't get me wrong. I mean, the majority of stuff, the feedback, whether it was through video reviews or whatever, from
Yeah.
like independent creators, that feedback was great. And any of the issues people had, I was happy to jump on and try and fix and
Yeah.
patch all of that kind of stuff. It's only really a few of the
Bigger
big
outlets.
review, yeah.
Yeah.
And I sort of, I never really. It's hard to know with those kind of
Yeah.
when you read the reviews, it doesn't seem particularly like they spent very much time with it. So, but I don't know. It's so
Right,
hard to
yeah.
tell.
Yeah, and yeah, I mean, especially with the bigger outlets, I can't remember. Like, I don't feel like that there was that many big outlets that reviewed your game.
No, 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 not that
I know
many.
like IGN did, I think, and like a few others that did, and yeah, they were definitely a little bit more critical. And I guess that's kind of their job to be critics more so than reviewers. I guess I don't really know, but
Yeah. I don't really tend to pay much attention to those for any game release, to be
yeah, no,
honest.
I wouldn't. It's
So,
probably the best thing not to. But and so what are some for anybody out there? What are some of your inspirations when you were working on Clive and Wrench? Because you started that what nearly 12 years ago, something like that.
yeah, 2011. So,
Yeah.
okay. I mean, I think my biggest ones were, uh, well, it depends. Do you want me to state the games people will have heard of, or do you want me to state the actual like biggest inspirations? Because they're not necessarily the same thing,
Um, I mean, both
or
are fine.
both.
Yeah, both's fine.
Okay. So, like the ones that I think people would most, more often than not, uh, draw comparisons to that were inspirations would be stuff like Spyro or Jack and Daxter or
Right.
Banjo Kazooie. But one of my biggest inspirations were some of the sort of obscure PS1 platformers, stuff like Muppet Monster Adventure
Hmm.
or um, Bugs Bunny and Taz, or even like Medieval, which isn't really a
Oh yeah,
platformer, but
it
you know
kind of is, kind of.
has has platforming, but I don't
Yeah,
think
yeah,
that's
yeah,
its
yeah.
strongest
Definitely
aspect.
more of
But
a
yeah,
hack and slash game.
yeah, 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 exactly. But I think aesthetically, that was a big inspiration, certainly for uh, like the Victorian London and the
Hmm.
graveyard levels.
Yeah. Um. Yeah, I mean, you could definitely see like the medieval in those levels, and I mean, especially the banjo and Jack and Daxter type stuff, especially with like your the font and the way the name was put together and stuff like that, which was pretty cool. That was
Yeah, yeah. I think a lot of the way that dialogue works and stuff as well.
yeah,
A
yeah,
lot more.
the gibberish.
Yeah, yeah,
I loved that. I loved that. I was like, yes, more games with gibberish. I know a lot of people find it annoying, but I like it because I one of my favorites is Banjo Kazooie, and so that's what Banjo Kazooie is what kind of drew me to your game initially when I first saw it. And I can't even remember how long ago it was when I first saw it, but
yeah.
oh, I think it might have been at that I think it might have been at that one indie showcase. What's it called? It was mainly for 3D platformers.
Hub World,
Mm. Yes, Hub
was
World.
that
Yeah,
one?
when that because that was like Hub World first started. I was like, oh, that's cool. I was like, there's a 3D platformer showcase thing. And
Yeah,
I
yeah,
watched
yeah.
that.
I
And I
think
remember seeing your game, and I'm like, that's what I'm most excited for right there.
yeah, it's such a cool idea to put all of those
Mhm.
kind of games together because there's a lot of indie platformers up and coming now, but they don't really tend to get spoken about on the
No,
bigger showcases.
no, especially platformers like both 2D and 3D. I feel like don't have quite the they have the audience, they have the fans, but they don't have quite the like a place for showcases and stuff like that. Kind of like the new renaissance of old school first person shooters and stuff do with like 3D realms, realms deep and stuff like that. 3D platformers don't really have that, and I think Hub World was could kind of be that. I don't know if they've done another showcase since that one or not, but
I think they've done two so far, and I think there is
yeah.
another one in the books. But the thing is that the people that run it are also making the 3D platformer Billy Bust Up, so
Oh,
they're like
nice.
super busy with that as
Yeah,
well
yeah,
as having that on the back burner. So I think there's a plan, but it's only
yeah.
kind of
At least they're
as it
trying though.
goes.
That's more than that's it's better than nothing, because 3D platformers
Yeah,
kind of need
yeah,
it in my opinion. That's one of my favorite genres of games. So,
yeah, yeah.
um,
You and me both. I wish we
yeah,
saw more of it in stuff like Nintendo Direct and
yeah,
whatnot.
yeah. I mean,
The amount
Nintendo
of
doesn't really show off many 3D platformers other than their own, which there's not that many.
yeah, yeah. If it's an indie farm simulator, it'll show up, but
Oh,
not a
there's so
platformer.
many farm simulators, man. There's so many.
Yeah.
Um, Is there anything that you wish that you could have done differently during the development of Clive N Wrench?
Uh, no, I don't think so. Really, I mean, I'd like to like in a different situation. I'd have liked to have been able to spend less time on it because I didn't also have to have a full-time job. But there's not a lot I could have done about that because it would have been nice to get that out earlier, given that
Right.
I started so early, and then by the time it actually came out, this wave had already started. So it would have been nice to have been ahead of that curve as I intended on to begin with. But again, it's not really anything that was in my control. So
That yeah, that's fair. I mean, at least you don't have too many big regrets or anything. Good to hear
no,
that
no, no.
mostly went smooth for you.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, that my dream was to make a 3D platformer that I could hold in my hands,
Right.
and I mean, it happened, so I can't really complain.
Yeah, I mean that I would love to make a 3D platformer one day. Maybe we'll see. But I mean, crazy to think because when I saw like how long you had been in development with the game, I was like, that's actually kind of unique and different because a lot of these games, I mean, some of them probably have been in development for a similar amount of time, but nobody really talks about it. But it was pretty prominent in like all the articles about the game, or even like the one or two little interview things that you did with like Game Informer and another place, I think.
Yeah, I think because I have always been really public about it, like I
Yeah,
just post progress, and every time that I added a new feature or started on a new level, whatever, I would share it. So it kind of created this like, interesting diary. You could go right
right.
back to 2011 and you could follow the development for the entire decade long journey that it was. So I guess that's maybe why.
Yeah, yeah, probably. I mean, it's good to be like that, though. I mean, I just thought that it added a nice perspective to it, and like, man, he's been working on this game for a very, very long time, which I'm sure provides its own amount of pressure too, especially when it
Yeah,
releases, and
yeah,
you know, whether it gets mixed or positive or whatever kind of reviews. I'm sure that it's a lot of pressure.
yeah. I guess people have expectations because, but then at the same time, they also know exactly what to expect because they've seen so much of it. So it's kind of difficult to know either way. But I do know that the majority of people that followed the journey seem to have come back to me at the end of it and said they really enjoyed the final product. So
Right.
we good?
Okay.
You still there?
Yeah, yeah, I'm
Oh,
still
you
here.
are.
I just had to fix it.
No worries, no worries.
So, what are some? You've been playing any games this year that you've been just playing for fun? When you got free time, 3D platformers,
Um,
anything like that?
Not really. I spent my weekdays are spent working on Flit at the moment, and then my
Yeah.
weekends are spent um, working on GTA mods. So the only games I really play are my own and San Andreas at the moment.
Oh, nice. I know you did GTA mods. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, yeah. A series called Titaned.
Hmm.
That's basically like reworks all of the missions in a game to be difficult and to trip up speedrunners. Is the
Oh,
idea?
okay. That's pretty
Yeah,
cool.
a lot of fun. Good to take my mind off of like I don't want to get burnt out on 3D platformers, so it's nice to have that,
Right.
you know.
Yeah, yeah. You definitely don't want to get burnt out. That's what you're trying to do.
Yeah, no, that happened a couple of times during Clive, and I wouldn't I wouldn't recommend it. It's not
Oh,
great.
yeah. I'm sure,
Take,
especially with such a
take
long
breaks.
development. Yeah, definitely take
Yeah,
breaks.
yeah.
So how long have you been working on Flit?
I'd say probably about 3 months now. Although, like, it's on the structure of what I built for Clive, so it's
Of course, right?
kind of hard to quantify. But like, I started working on it properly and creating characters and writing story and whatnot. Yeah, about 3 months ago.
So that's pretty cool though. I mean, so do you feel that it's I mean, I guess especially since it's kind of built off of what you did with Clive and Wrench. Does 12 years of development make it a lot easier to attempt to make another game?
Oh yeah, most definitely. Like even if I was starting from scratch,
Hmm.
it would be a lot easier because like I have some semblance of what I need to do now.
Yeah.
Whereas like when I started it, I was a teenager who'd never made a game before. I had
Right.
no
Right.
idea what I was doing. So yeah, it's definitely a lot. But it's still not easy. Don't get me wrong.
Right.
And
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
there's different challenges because of course now, like as you were talking about before, there are expectations now that the this game as a like my next game should be better than the first game. So
Right.
I have
Yeah.
to kind
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
live up to that.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure you've taken notes on like the technical side and some different things like that mentioned that I'm sure you can
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I
implement
mean,
and stuff.
I think one of the biggest criticisms I had for Clive was that hit detection on combat wasn't always consistent for people, depending on
Right.
how they played, and that the kind of opposite of that, where they got hit, they didn't always realize they'd been injured. So,
Hmm.
like as an example, both of those things have been addressed in Flit already. It was like one of the
Oh,
first
okay.
things that I changed about like the engine for that character.
Huh. Okay, that's pretty cool. I think Flit looks even more Spyro inspired than Five and Wrenches. Yeah,
Oh, for sure, yeah. Like I'm heavily leaning into the PlayStation 1 aesthetic.
because you
Like,
got the like the gym type things and the boxes that you break and stuff like that, and the little gameplay that you.
yeah, exactly. And
So very Spyro.
all of the geometry kind of warps
Yeah.
slightly as you move the camera around, all that kind of thing. Because I
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
like that and as an aesthetic, and it means
Hmm.
that I can be a lot more artistic with the way lighting is used.
Right.
Like instead of real time lights where you can place them, but how they affect the environment, you don't have full control over.
Right.
The way that I'm
Huh.
working now is I'm hand painting everything.
Right.
So like basically the entire level is a canvas that you put textures on and then
Yeah.
paint color over the top of it.
Hmm.
It just gives better control for me, and it works really well with that art style, I think.
Yeah. Um. It looks like that game, like the platforming is a little bit more um grounded, I guess. I don't know how to say it. Like it's less bouncy.
It's a little more simple. The characters are a little more weighted, and
Yeah.
also there's no double jump, which means I can
Mm.
design levels to be
You have to
smaller.
glide, right? Just like Spyro
You have
kind of thing.
you have
Yeah.
to glide. Yeah, yeah.
That is a cool actual strategic choice that they made in Spyro to you have to like hit glide at a certain height to reach things. It can be both cool and frustrating, but it's something
Sure.
that I
Yeah,
always
yeah,
liked.
yeah.
But
So
it's
so
interesting.
coupling. Sorry, go
No,
on.
you're good. You keep going.
I was just going to say, so yeah, taking that idea and then coupling it with like, the ability to grab a ledge means that hopefully some of that frustration of missing a jump,
Right. Yeah.
gives you just that little more margin for error.
Yeah. The ledge grab is definitely I'm sure a welcome improvement to that formula for a lot of people. Because even something like that, I think could have been implemented in the remakes. Even though I love the remakes of the Spyro games, like a ledge grab or something would have been great. Because I mean, I don't think it's an issue too many times, but there are definitely areas in Spyro where you have to do that at a very specific height, like the peak of your jump or something. And if you're off by like a millisecond, it'll completely you're just gonna headbutt the wall.
Yeah, well, hopefully, yeah, it just removes that little bit, gives people just that
Yeah.
tiny bit more control.
I think it's cool that you can learn from what you did with Clive and Wrench and improve that a lot. I so one of the things that I saw a lot of people talking about that I just couldn't agree with when I saw reviews of Clive and Wrench was a lot of people were talking about how the platforming felt like kind of floaty and I guess floaty and imprecise or something like that. Um
Yeah, I never understood that either.
I didn't. Okay, so I didn't understand that because one, I never had the issue of like when jumping to a platform, I didn't know if I was gonna land on it. It wasn't like trying to think. There's something I played one time where like you don't have the shadow under you kind of thing. But I never had that issue, even without like, because you have a shadow like under your character, but even without that, I never had a problem jumping to platforms. Um,
Right.
Ever. Like
Yeah.
pretty much if I hit it. But what I loved though, something I really loved that I did praise you about a little bit in my video I did was how fast and fluid the game, like the platforming stuff is, and the fact that you have all of the abilities from the start. Um,
Yeah, that was always such a big thing for me as
yeah,
well, because as somebody that likes to replay the same games over and over again rather than playing anything new, uh,
yeah,
the fact, like, it's always a bit of a drawback when you have to, oh, yeah, yeah, of course, I have to relearn all of the moves that I'm used to before I
right.
can use that muscle memory
Yeah,
again. So,
that's actually something I disliked about Spyro 2. Since we were just talking about that, is Spyro 2 is so much. It has so much backtracking. It's like Banjo Tooie, where it's like there's so much like you get an ability like three quarters of the way through, and now you can go back to the very first level and unlock something.
yeah, I think that's a very subjective thing, but I'm with you.
Oh
I
yeah,
mean, deliberately designing without the need for backtracking.
yeah.
I wanted
Yeah. No, I mean,
oh,
Oh, sorry.
it's alright, it's alright, it's alright. I was just gonna say I like consciously made sure that every level could be 100%ed the
Yeah.
first time you visit.
Right, yeah, and so that's something that I liked about Spyro 1. You can get like when I beat the remake, because I played as a kid, but I never beat it. So when I beat the remake, you can play every level and beat it 100% first time through, every single level.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Banjo Kazooie, I think you can do it with almost every level, but there's like a couple levels I think that you have to have a certain ability. Um, but
Right.
it's only like one or two levels, and which I think the main one is like the very last level, like Click Clock Wood or TikTok. What is it? Click Clock Wood, TikTok Wood. I
Click
don't remember.
clock, I think. Yeah,
Click Clock,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah,
I think that one you have to have certain abilities, but you have most of them by the end anyway. But yeah, I like that in like your kind of like Metroidvania kind of game, like I don't know, Metroid Prime or something like that. I don't necessarily mind it because it's a little bit more tightly designed that way. But when it comes to a 3D platformer, I don't really like having to backtrack a lot.
yeah. I
Um,
think you can make it work with like a Metroid style game
yeah,
because the levels loop round, so
yeah,
you end up naturally back in the same spot
yeah,
anyway,
yeah,
rather than
interconnected.
having to. Yeah, exactly. Rather than actually having to literally go back over your own steps
Yeah,
or restart the level again, you kind of naturally end up there.
yeah,
That seems better as a solution. But personally, I would just prefer that there was no requirement for backtracking at all.
yeah, yeah. I mean, so I think it was in one of your interviews that you did prior to the release of the game. I don't remember which one because you did a few. And in one of them, you said like you wanted to design the game that way you could 100% every level and first time through, and that you could just kind of go all the way to the end and have everything done by the time you beat it, type of thing. Um,
Yeah,
when I heard that, I was like, man, speaking to me. I was like, it's
yeah,
I love it. I was like, and then when I got my hands on it, and I was like, wow, okay, he really did do that. Like, and
yeah, yeah.
people
And
will. No, you're good.
it, it's odd because for some people that's a drawback. They were
Right.
like, "Oh, I really wish that I got to go back to older levels," and it's like, well, I can't. There's no, you can't really win, can you? You're always
No,
going
I
to
mean,
displease someone.
and when it comes down to it, you got to have one or the other. I mean, I think a lot of people were like, "Oh, well, some of the levels are too short, or like, there's not much replay value or something." It's like, man, like it's a 3D platformer. Like, I mean, you're either gonna 100% it or you're not gonna 100% it, and one way
Right.
or the other, I mean, you don't have to 100% the game like to beat it. So I mean, you could just run through, get enough to go to each level, and then beat the game, and then come back and do the rest. But if you're trying to
Sure.
100% it all the way through, yes, there's going to be nothing to do by the time you reach the end because you beat the game 100%.
Yeah. Yeah. And I
Um,
mean, at the end of the game, there is a secret level if you found
oh
everything
yes.
anyway.
Oh,
That's
trust me, I did.
yeah, right. So that was kind of my compromise, I guess, was like, okay, well, for those people that want something as a
Yeah.
reward for, getting to the end, even if they have done everything,
Hmm.
they haven't quite done everything.
Yeah, that reminded me a lot of. It's so funny, but it reminded me a lot of Spyro again. Because once you 100% Spyro, you can then 115% it because it unlocks Nasty Nork's world or
Or
whatever.
the loot, the
Yeah,
loot
the loot world.
world.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I
Yeah.
was like, oh, it's cool. But yours was a time capsule to the like initial concept of your game, which I thought was honestly one of the coolest freaking things to have in a game as like a bonus for 100%ing. I absolutely love
Oh,
that,
cool. I'm glad
honestly.
you liked it.
Yeah, it was
Yeah,
really it was really cool.
it kind of felt like anyone that is dedicated enough to reach that point in the
Yeah.
game would appreciate that,
Hmm.
and those who didn't wouldn't want that anyway. So it kind of felt like an interesting,
Yeah. I
slightly
I
different way of doing it.
yeah, I'm usually 100% 3D platformers, so when I was during the I had access to the game for like an entire month prior to release. A lot of time to
Right. Yeah,
play a
yeah,
3D
yeah.
platformer, and I was glad that I got that much time because it also allowed me not to be stressed about trying to beat it. But I ended up playing it way more than I expected, and I was like, I'm 100%ing this game. It became like an addiction. I was like, I'm gonna I'm gonna do
That's
everything
dope.
in this game,
Right.
and I was having such a good time. I mean, and so like I got a little bit of flack from this one person in my video because I was saying that you kind of like you have like a in my eyes it was kind of perfectly designed in that way that you have all the abilities, you can 100% every level first time through. And what I loved about the platforming was that I mean, I could take off running and do like a double jump thing, and I mean, I could just sling myself across the map kind of thing. And to me, that felt fun. Like that was just enjoyable to do.
Yeah.
And I love
Yeah.
the monkey copter thing. I love that so much. You're just swinging him
Yeah.
around.
Yeah. But that
That
kind of like kinetic ability to just
yeah
like you can string any move with any other
yeah
move and like find your own way of playing
Yeah, and I don't
was
think many like 3D platformers have that. Like it's because it's
right.
like combos in a 3D platformer. You can do all these moves in conjunction with each other, and it makes other moves. Basically, I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, yeah, that seems to like really click. And when it does click with people, it really clicks. Then
Oh
other
yeah,
people like say describe it as, oh well, it feels floaty and
right.
imprecise.
Yeah, yeah,
I'm like,
yeah.
is it, or is it that you just haven't quite like, or maybe I haven't quite communicated well enough how it's supposed
Right.
to work? You know?
Yeah, I mean, I actually didn't even expect you to have like a tutorial level, um, type thing, but then you did have like a little tutorial level, and I was like, okay, that's cool. But it's not like it was a good tutorial level because it wasn't like one of those annoying ones with just like a ton of pop ups and just like a whatever. It was pretty,
Yeah.
you know, typical, like, but in a good way. So it was, showing all the moves and so on. I thought it was funny though. This is something that I found interesting was that you don't have much water in the game. Like you have like
No, no,
two
that's
two
true.
areas or something in the entirety of the game with water. You even have water in the tutorial. And I was like, this is kind of funny. I was like, I'm not mad at it because like wa- water and 3D platformers are notoriously bad, but but
So,
yours were actually decent, and there wasn't a lot of them.
well, I think it was basically that the water controls, the swimming were designed and
Yeah,
put in, and there was more water in like earlier versions of the game. But as time
yeah.
went on, I found the swimming sections to be the least interesting. Sorry, my delivery's here. Give me two
All good,
seconds.
man.
What were we talking about?
Why'd you have to say that? No, I think we were talking about we were talking about the movement, people thinking it was floaty and stuff like that.
No,
Yeah,
hang on.
I don't
No,
know. I already
Can you
lost it.
can you hear my dog now?
No, I can't.
Oh, you can't. Okay,
No.
that's all right then. Yeah, we were talking about swimming, right? So I was
Yeah,
just
yeah,
saying that
swimming. Yeah.
as I was going along
Oh,
designing
now I can hear the dog,
section.
but
Oh, you can. It's all right. I can go and deal with her. Ask her to be quiet. Give me 2 secs.
okay, okay, all right.
Yeah. So when I was designing each of the levels,
Yeah,
it kind of became obvious after time that the water was the least interesting part
right,
and the slowest movement. So it just kind of
right.
naturally got phased out of most
Yeah,
areas.
Yeah, I mean that's fair. I mean, I don't think that it would have helped the game at all to have water levels because I not that I dislike water, and I think that yours were some of the better feeling ones in just about any 3D platformer ever. And I think one of the worst is Banjo Kazooie, hands down. And I love that game to death, but my God, swimming is terrible.
Yeah,
Um,
the Clanker's Cavern is a little bit of
oh, it's such a pain.
a
It's
bane of
such a
the little.
pain. I love that
Yeah,
level, but dude, is it a pain. um,
yeah, I like everything but the water in that
yeah,
level. It's
yeah. If
just
it was just like that level without water, we'd be great.
exactly, yeah,
Because you're just like headbutting walls and just it's just annoying.
yeah. But that was
Um,
kind of a big part of that was I sort of have this swimming and I have to teach
yeah.
it because it is used in some levels, but
Yeah, yeah, it's
yeah,
usually
it's
like
kind
two
of
levels, yeah, something like that.
right. Yeah.
It was pretty prominent in the like one section of the Chinese New Year level. Um,
Oh, right, because you
uh,
have to swim to get into that cave, don't you?
yeah, 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 yeah. And I mean, when you're getting everything, you kind of go through there a few times. You're like me and you forget
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah,
But
yeah.
dude, I scoured every level. I was like, "Where's this stuff? Stuff, where's this stuff?" And
And did the radar come in helpful?
yes, yes. I was so happy that you did that. There's only one other game that you hear that?
I did, yeah.
Okay, that was my son. He just yelled. Um,
At
yeah.
least
So there
it's
was
both
only
of us, not
yeah.
not just on my end.
um, yeah. So only one other game did that, and the only other game that did that was, as far as I'm aware. I mean, other than like Spyro, technically had the your fairy thing kind of like
Yeah,
glowed and stuff, but it's
yeah.
I don't think it was that helpful. It occasionally was helpful, but it's not that helpful. But ukulele, one of the tonics that you can unlock has a like ping thing. Um, and it took me a very long time to 100% ukulele because of like two feathers in the entirety of that game. I probably spent
Right.
40 hours looking for two feathers. Not even joking. And one of them was in Travel Stack Tropics under the cliff, like behind Shovel Knight in the game, which shout out to the fact that Shovel Knight's in that game is cool as hell.
Right,
Um,
yeah, yeah.
what was ironic about that is that I played Shovel Knight and beat it right before I bought ukulele, and they did the trailer, and I was like, yes,
Oh, he was in the trailer though, right? It wasn't a
yeah,
massive
no,
surprise
he was
in the
in
game.
one of the trailers, yeah. So it
Okay.
wasn't a
Right.
huge surprise. It would have been even better if it was a surprise because he's in two levels of the game, and it's cool.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but yeah, anyway, so that one, and then there was one like was hiding behind a ramp in the casino level, the biggest level in the game. That one took me even longer. It was hiding behind one ramp. I ran around that damn level more times than I could count. I'm like, where the hell is this thing? And when I got to peeing, I was like, or I didn't even know I had the peeing, and then I found it in the tonic list because I wasn't using it, and then I was like, where have you been all my life? I need you, and it
Yeah,
saved
it's a
me.
pretty cool mechanic.
But yeah, you had the radar thing, and that was a godsend. Like it was, I mean, I'm gonna be honest with you. I think that you designed the levels well enough that it's not really needed. I think because everything's placed pretty decently, but it does help, especially if you don't want to devote a whole lot of time to like having to um, scour every corner. So it's a great
Cool.
addition.
Okay.
I
Yeah.
really
I
liked
mean,
it.
I think it would have been different if it was always out because then it's
Yeah,
like would take away a lot of the challenge, but
yeah,
the
yeah,
fact it's optional felt
yeah.
like a
Because
decent.
you can use it kind of like a detective sense in Batman kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, which I liked it pretty good.
Cool.
Yeah, I was gonna say, so like water levels in games are kind of like sewer, or water levels in 3D platformers and like Zelda and stuff is kind of like sewer levels in first person games. So I don't think anybody was hurt by the fact that you included less water.
Yeah, no, you're probably right.
um,
And in fact, I don't plan to include any swimming in Flit at all,
okay, okay, okay.
just
You heard it
because.
here. You heard it here first. No swimming in Flip.
Yeah, I better not change my mind now that I've said it.
Official. Um, yeah. So yeah, water levels, man. They're just they're not. They could be better. That's all I can say. But
They're very hard to
um,
get right, I think.
they are.
It's possible, but it's very hard.
Yeah, yeah, it's possible, but it is definitely difficulty. Um, so with Flit, is it? You think it's going to be like as long of a game as Clive and Wrench?
Um, it's kind of hard to tell. I don't think it'll be as big. Like the
Right.
plan is, there'll be more individual levels than
Hmm.
Clive's by a
Okay.
small margin, but the levels themselves will be slightly smaller.
So
Um,
more like Spyro 1 kind of levels, or
yeah, exactly
yeah,
like that. But with some of the way that levels in Spyro 2 tend to link round to
yeah,
themselves, so they
yeah.
become like a big circle effectively.
Hmm. Hmm.
That kind of design philosophy in mind.
Okay, okay. Yeah, I like
Use
that. I like that.
Yeah, me too. I like the kind of feeling of, you can see something high up when you start the level and then
Yeah,
you end up in
yeah.
that
Because
place.
Spyro 1 was kind of like it was like more like it was open, but it was like kind of a linear progression, and it didn't really loop back around. You just kind of hit an end, so you'd have to backtrack if you
Right.
missed anything or replay the level. But I
Yeah,
did,
yeah.
other than the tedious amount of backtracking in Spyro 2, I do like the level design being that kind of like loop where it all kind of comes back. And usually at the end, you can like jump back down to the beginning of the level or something like that, and you can just go back through if you miss
Yeah.
something.
I love that feeling when you turn a corner and then you go, "Oh, I know where I am."
Yeah, 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 yeah. Oh yeah, I really like that, especially the sense of scale. You get when you start the level, like you were saying, and you see the stuff, and then you make it to the thing. That's always a really cool thing that I like. And
Yeah. Gives you that real sense of like progression inside of a level where you're
yeah,
already progressing through the game. It's great.
yeah. Have you played any other 3D platformers that you'd like to give a shout out to or anything like that?
Well, as far as indie stuff, like I
Yeah,
tend to, I tend to not play too many because I always
yeah.
worry that I might be influenced or like see an idea and then go,
Yeah.
"Oh, I wish I'd done that," or whatever.
That actually happens a lot with games, and people don't even know that they do it. Like it's subconscious. Like they see something and then
Right.
they implement
Exactly.
it without knowing that they did it. Pretty much.
Yeah, and then 6 months later, you're like, "Oh, damn, I stole that. I
Yeah.
didn't mean to." Right.
Yeah, that's fair
But
though. I
although
mean,
I have, because the goals are like the goal for that game is very similar to mine. I've been playing some of the like old demo builds of Zera, if you've ever seen that. It's like a um PS1
Zara.
style. Yeah, it's Zera.
I feel like it,
Uh,
it sounds familiar, but I can't really place it.
he plays like a pink axolotl looking creature with a. Anyway, it's a similar kind of idea. And I've been speaking to the developer of that quite a bit because
Oh, nice.
they're the expert when it comes to the PS1 style stuff.
Which,
So
yeah,
it's
which
just
is kind of your focus now.
exactly, yeah. So
You
that's
said
really
it's
the only one.
Zara, right? Zara.
Yeah, Zera. I can send you a link afterwards if you like.
Zera. Okay. There's another game which is Zara.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's the same name, but it's a different game. Okay. Yeah, send it to me later. But I was gonna
Yeah, yeah,
say
yeah,
so. There's a cool one that I played a little bit after Clive and Wrench called Hell Pie. Have you heard of that one? I actually think it
yeah,
was
yeah,
at
yeah.
the
I
the Hub World thing.
yeah, I think I saw your review of it. Right, you did a
Hmm.
review of that.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah,
I did. Well,
yeah, yeah.
yeah, it was more of like a kind of a recommendation thing than a full review because I
Okay.
hadn't beaten the game at the time. But yeah, I did do something on it.
Yeah, so
Like,
sort of a more edgy conquer style thing, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah. Here, give
Yeah.
me just 1 second. All right, I'm back.
Cool. Okay.
Um, yeah, Hell Pie. Yeah, it's a little bit more of a conquer kind of edgy, more like I like to call it Adult Swim type of humor.
Okay. Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. And did you enjoy it?
Oh man, I when I did finally beat it, I really liked it. Like it's one of it's definitely up there as one of the most unique 3D platformers I've ever played. And it has like almost no coverage on like YouTube or anything. Like it really
Yeah, it's
really
weird, isn't
flew
it?
under the radar, like hardcore.
it just again it hits me as one of those things that if it appeared on a Nintendo Direct or something,
Yes,
people
it
would
would. Yeah.
probably really latch onto it. But
Yeah, if it appeared on something like that, but I think the biggest shout out that they got was like that hub world thing. Like, I don't think they were on much of anything else. I mean, there was definitely a few reviews, but it just didn't get the coverage that. I mean, I think even your game got more coverage than they, did, and I think that's kind of crazy.
right, yeah, it's
But
it's
yeah, I
tough.
mean, I think it's a really cool game. But they did a lot of cool stuff with that, and they're from the same publisher as the Pumpkin Jack game,
Right, yeah, yeah.
and there's like so you're the eighth deadly sin that they made up for your character. And so there's one of the
Okay,
sins that is he has like you have to give a certain currency to him to open doors. I forget which one it is. I think it's greed. Yeah, I think it's greed. And
makes sense. Yeah.
yeah, and so when you go through, you unlock a bunch of doors and stuff like that. And one of them you get like you actually get the Pumpkin Jack skin, so you get to use that character like as a skin for your character,
Oh, that's
which
pretty
is pretty
cool.
cool.
Yeah.
There's a whole segment that is like a spoof of Scarface in the game, which I absolutely loved.
Okay,
Um,
sure. Why not?
yeah, yeah. There's like a this lizard guy that you talk to, and he's like a crime boss. Uh, you get like there's a whole section where you like actually get to use a machine gun and fight these
Pr-
like geckos or whatever, and it's it's very
Pretty
interesting.
cool.
Yeah, it's really cool. Really cool game.
I like the creativity. Like you think of people talk about 3D platformers, and
Yeah.
you kind of think of it as one specific thing, but it really is such a wide genre,
Oh
especially
yeah,
with indie.
because yeah, and I mean also you got to think that games like Jack and Daxter, Ratchet and Clank, Sly Cooper, and all those games also fall within that same category, or even some of the lesser known ones like that in the 2000s, like was it the Sphinx and the Cursed Mummy, uh,
Mm.
Ty the Tasmanian Tiger. There's a bunch of those different ones like that, and those all fall in that area, but they're so drastically different than something like Banjo or Spyro, but they're still platformer based games.
Yeah, I mean, you could sort of make an argument for the earlier Assassin's Creed games as being
Yeah,
3D
yeah,
platformers too. If you, it's not
yeah.
much of a stretch, I don't think.
No, I mean I think those are definitely a lot closer, and because they're more tight knit, and there actually is a good bit of platforming across things. I mean, you could also go as far.
Yeah.
I mean, you go as far as to say Prince of Persia was a platformer. I think it actually is more of a
Oh,
platformer than it is
definitely.
anything else.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Especially like Sands of Time that
Yeah.
era.
Well, yeah, and Prince of like yeah, especially the original and stuff like that. Like Sands of Time is more. There's more platforming than there is combat in that game.
Yeah, definitely.
And
Probably more platforming than something like Ratchet and Clank, and
yeah,
that would.
even yeah, oh yeah, definitely more than that for sure. And it's a different kind, but it's still some of the similarities, but it is different at the same time. It has that like environmental puzzle solving with platforming, which I think is really cool.
Yeah, yeah. I guess at the time there's just a stigma against like 3D platformers are
Right.
cute mascot characters
Yeah, yeah,
running
yeah, yeah.
around a colorful world.
Yeah. I think Prince of Persia is kind of more well known as like being thrown up there in the category with stuff like God of War and stuff as a hack and slash kind of game because it does have a
Yeah,
little bit of that, but it's such a bare bones hack and slash, and it's so much more like a puzzle platformer kind of game.
I think it's purely an art style thing. I think
Yeah.
I mean it's why these genre kind of ideas are so arbitrary. Like
Yeah.
there's so much crossover.
Oh
There's
yeah.
barely any game that only fits into one.
No, yeah, no. Definitely not because every game is inspired by like a million different things, and that's the whole beauty of making video games is that you can take like
Right.
30 ideas and make your own game. But to appeal to people, you always have to kind of find a category, and that is sometimes good and sometimes bad for your game because sometimes that category isn't really doesn't really completely explain what it is that you created, but it's
Right.
so detrimental for the eyes to get on your game to have a category.
I think think that's why I answered your question with a question earlier on when you said, you were asking what inspired me,
Right.
because like the marketable answer are naming games that the most people will have played. So like
Yeah.
you say Spyro and people go, I know what that is. But you say something obscure like, oh yeah, did you ever play like Monsters Inc. Scare Island on the PS1? And most people are like, what? It's not
It's
really
so funny that you mentioned that. Did you mention that on purpose?
what that game.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, because it was one of my inspirations, but not something I
Was
would
it?
generally bring. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So Scream Team uh, was the
Oh,
PS1.
that's what it's called in the US, right?
Yeah. Well, they
Yeah,
made
yeah.
a PS2 version that was Scare Island.
Okay, so over here
Same
they were
game though.
both.
They were
Yeah,
both
over here
Scare
they were
Island.
both called Scare Island. Yeah,
Okay,
and then
that's funny.
just to be confusing, and then there was also Monsters Inc. just called Monsters Inc., which was a completely different PS2 game as well.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That
So
was also a platformer, I think.
yeah, but not a very good one
Oh,
as far as I
I never
remember.
played that one. I only played Scream Team. The PS2
Okay.
version, Scare Island, well, in United States, is the PS2 version of that game. The characters look a little weird. They're kind of
Yeah, you
creepy
could.
looking.
I think you can tell that they upscaled it from PS1 and kind of.
Yeah. I don't know what they were doing with Sully's face.
But yeah, well, that's exactly like that point you were saying. It's
Yeah.
like when you're trying to market a game, bringing up some obscure
Mhm.
thing you're inspired by doesn't tend to help matters
Right.
because the majority of people
Right.
can't draw that
You
comparison.
know,
You know?
and you made those bigger comparisons, medieval, Jack and Daxter, that kind of stuff. But man,
Yeah.
I'd rather hear of your obscure inspiration. See, I knew that you were inspired by Muppet Monster Adventure, which also seems to be inspiring your new game a little bit as well, and as far as
Yeah, definitely.
its tone goes and stuff.
Yeah, yeah, for
Which
sure.
is that's a game that I never played, but I did grow up playing Scream Team as one of those obscure platformers. I'm actually planning on beating it for the first time ever soon. I actually bought a
Oh well, okay.
PS1 memory card to play it on my PS2 so I could save the game. And then I realized that I can also play PS1 games on PS3
Huh, well, what a
after
coincidence
buying
then,
the
I guess.
memory card. I was like, well, screw it. I'm just going to use the memory card. Make me feel
Yeah,
like I'm a
okay.
little kid again.
Yeah, I recently bought a CRT so that I
Oh,
could
nice.
do
Yeah, I need
like
one
the
so
same
bad.
sort of thing. It honestly makes such a difference.
Oh, yeah.
Everything looks. I mean, those
Looks a
games
lot
were
better.
made to look that way,
Yeah.
so it makes
Well,
sense.
like
But
new TVs are like at 1080p up to 4K. And so when
yeah,
they're trying to
yeah,
downscale, like they're not even built with like technically the capability to downscale to that low of a resolution because I think stuff on PS1 is actually lower than 480p. So,
yeah, yeah, yeah. Most of the time,
so yeah,
and
because I
it's
think
built for interlacing.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, I want like I just want like a little small like CRT TV to like put in on my desk or something and just have it for those old games because
Yeah, the authentic way of doing it.
yeah, I don't mind playing old games on my TV. They look way rougher.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, like so, it's cool to hear. So you're inspired by Scream Team, Muppet Monster Adventures. Any other obscure ones?
You ever play A Bug's Life?
Yes. Oh my. Okay. This. Wow. I was gonna mention A Bug's Life today, and here you go
Okay,
mentioning another game that I grew up with. What is this? You're in my
well there you
mind,
go. Yeah.
dude. Bug's Life. I love Bug's Life.
Okay. Well, there's another one. Uh, I think basically like that entire era of like I played a lot of those as a kid. I think
It's like
mainly because
PS1 platformers.
yeah, because they would always be included on like the demo discs that came with the
Yes.
magazines,
Yes.
and so I'd find them on there and then like beg my parents to get me that, and they'd be like, "Well, like Metal Gear Solid, that's the one everyone's interested in," and I'd be
Yeah.
like, "No, no, I want Bugs and Taz
Yeah.
Time
Yeah.
Busters."
Yeah. I never played Time Busters. That's one I still need to play.
Okay. Oh, you should. It's also co-op, which is like one of the very few co-op
Oh.
3D platformers.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, so I
Yeah.
mean, I can only think of like one other one, and that would be like the recent It Takes Two. That's like the only thing I can think of that's co-op.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy that and it works pretty well. Like they've got some mechanics like you can if your partner gets too far away, you can call them and they like
Oh wow,
teleport to you and stuff, so
that's
it doesn't
cool.
get
Yeah.
too frustrating.
Huh.
Pretty good.
Yeah, I definitely gotta check that out then. Maybe I can play with my son.
Yeah,
Um,
that'd be a great.
yeah,
That's
that'd
a
be
great like,
cool.
father son game. Sure.
Yeah, definitely. I'll definitely check it out. I wonder if it's obscure, so maybe it's not expensive. But then again, the obscurity could mean it's expensive. I don't know.
Yeah, it's a bit of a coin flip.
Um, yeah, man. I actually mentioned because I mentioned Monster Adventures and I mentioned Scream Team in my video that I did on Clive and Wrench. I mentioned them because I was talking about how,
Okay.
yeah, I was talking about how you were inspired by Monster Adventures, but I didn't know you were inspired by Scream Team. So I threw in Scream Team because that was my obscure one that I was kind of throwing out there to compare to yours. But it's funny to know that
I
you were also
okay.
inspired by that. That's cool.
Yeah, yeah. It's in fact that's the reason that the tutorial area in Clive is called orientation, was because that's what they
Okay.
called it in
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
Monsters Inc.
Okay. That's cool. Yeah. I never made that connection. Yeah. I like that. Okay. That makes sense. Um, and so another cool thing is I love your Easter eggs that you hit around the game.
As in the literal Easter eggs,
The
or
literal Easter eggs. Yeah. I like those.
okay.
They were just everywhere. Like
Yeah, that
in,
was a fun kind of. In fact, because we were talking about it a little while ago, that was something that there was one chocolate Easter egg in a hidden building in
yeah.
GTA Vice City, and
Yeah.
I really liked that idea, and that's exactly why I did it
Oh,
because it was
nice.
like,
That's
oh,
cool.
that's a good idea.
Yeah. Cause I mean, there
So
was like, and also I loved how
put one
like,
in nearly every level.
yeah. Yeah. I think it was pretty much every level. Prehistoric ice age kind of level that you have over there, like behind the one mountain, you have the boss from level 1 or level 2. Was it level? Yeah, second level. In an ice cube with a Easter egg.
Sorry, I missed everything up until the word ice cube. That was when you came back on.
Oh, okay. Um,
I was like sitting there quietly thinking, oh, maybe there was a knock at the door or something.
oh, my bad. Well, yeah. So I was gonna say, so the was it the first level or the second level? You have the or no, the Ice Age level. You have the boss from the second level in an ice cube, and then there's like an
Yeah, yeah,
Easter
yeah.
egg there, and I thought that was cool because I just happened to see it from the corner of my eye, and I was like, "Huh, what is that?"
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't really make sense timeline wise, but I
No,
just
no,
I couldn't resist the
yeah,
idea of, oh, that would be a fun,
but it's a cool
interesting
thing.
thing
It
to
could be
do.
like, oh, like this is just they're jumping around time, so things are getting messed up,
Right, exactly.
and the whole time thing was inspired by Time Busters, right?
Yeah, to an extent. I mean, really, time travel is such a nice like crutch to lean on,
Yeah,
because they can basically justify making any kind of level by saying, "Ah,
right.
time travel. That's why
Yeah,
we're in this place." You know, it's the same
true,
reason
true.
that for Flit you're going into storybooks because like everything's
Hmm.
a story, so I can I can still make whatever kind of level I like and justify
Right.
it that way.
Yeah, I'm definitely excited to see more about Flit and all that kind of stuff. That's gonna be cool. Are you still gonna get a publisher for that one?
I really don't know at the moment. I
Yeah.
think I'm focused on making the game like fun and interesting
Right.
and seeing if I can find an audience for it, and then I'll think more seriously about publishing and platforms and
Right.
when
Right.
I'm
Right.
a little bit further along, you know.
That's fair. That's fair. Um. So the Clive and Wrench had a physical release, right?
Did yeah,
How
and even a
limited was
collector's
that?
edition.
I saw the
When
collector's
it,
edition.
yeah, yeah, no, it was. I mean, fairly widespread. Like you can,
Yeah.
I had pictures of people that people were sending me of they'd walk into their local like EB Games
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
whatever,
GameStop or
and
whatever.
it was and it was sat on the shelf. People could buy it from those places. So
Nice.
like it was a semi-limited run, but it did
Yeah.
appear like in physical stores, which is still kind of crazy to me. It's like
Oh yeah, I'm
really
sure.
surreal.
I'm sure. I've been man, I've been trying to find physical copies of it. I just can't find them anywhere. I
Or was it hard to get hold of now?
Yeah, apparently I haven't seen them in any of the stores around here at least, and I mean I'm sure I might be able to find it online or something, but
Yeah, I guess what are we now 8 months down the line? It's probably
yeah,
stocks rotated around by now.
yeah, probably. So I probably look online, but I wanted it because I was like, I want to buy it on something else, but I want to do it digital. I want to try to get a physical copy because I'd like to get it on either Xbox or Switch. I was thinking about getting it on Switch.
Well, it's not on Xbox, so
Oh,
you
it
haven't
isn't on
got
Xbox.
any.
Okay, okay.
No, it was PS4, PS5, and Switch for
Oh, okay,
physical.
okay. But the game is on Xbox though, right? Digital.
No, 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 no. It never went on
Oh,
Xbox.
oh,
It
okay.
was
Huh.
just I did a poll early on. It was kind of like I can only
Yeah,
really afford to get it onto a certain number of
yeah.
platforms, and Xbox was the least popular platform,
Hmm.
so that was
Okay,
the cut kind of thing.
I see. So it's just PC, PlayStation, Switch.
Yeah, yeah.
Hmm. Okay. Well, I mean, I guess I'll try to look for a Switch physical copy then. I definitely want to get it on Switch because Switch is like a I don't know what it is when you think of Nintendo, you think of like platformers and stuff. So it's like I just like to rebuy games on Switch, like 3D platformers and stuff, because it just feels different to have it on Switch.
Yeah, I get that. I get that. Plus, portability is kind of a
Oh
different
yeah,
experience as well. That's cool. Well, I appreciate the double dip in that case.
yeah, yeah. I'll definitely try to get it on. Want to play through it on there. How do you like? Did the Switch version turn out well for you? I haven't really seen much on the Switch version.
Yeah, I think it did. Like there were certain things you have to scale back, like draw distance is slightly
Yeah,
less, and lighting is a little more simple. All of those kind of things. But
gotcha.
the game itself translated pretty well, I think.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I figured that it would. I mean, I don't think it's like it's not super intensive. I don't think to run on a Switch or anything.
No, it's not too bad. I mean, it had to take a the frame rate on PlayStation was
Yeah.
60, and it was like 30 on Switch was the main.
Okay.
But I mean, to me at least, it felt like a pretty smooth 30, and I didn't hear many complaints. I think that's kind of a
Yeah.
fairly standard thing for Switch.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. And I think if you can get a smooth 30, that's honestly just as good as 60. A lot of times,
Fair
in my
enough.
opinion, smooth 30 is pretty good. Yeah. There anything else you'd like to run over before we wrap it up?
No, nothing I can think of. I'm sure, it'll be 10 minutes after we hang up that suddenly
Yes.
one of
Oh
us
well,
will
man.
go,
Should have said that.
there was a thing.
Yeah, I'm sure. Well, uh, and so let's see. What you gonna roll out other things on Flit here and there probably?
Yeah, yeah, I think so. I see no reason to change course from what I was doing with Live, where it was
Yeah,
just every time that I felt like there was something interesting to share or something to get feedback on, I'd
yeah.
just throw it up and see what the world thought of
Well, you
it.
documented like pretty much your entire development on YouTube, right?
Right. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. So, I mean, at the moment, I don't see any reason not to do that. The cat's
yeah.
out of the bag now. People know I'm working on it, so it's not, you
Seemed
know.
like people were pretty excited from what I saw on Twitter.
Yeah, the reaction was crazy. It became like I think it is now my most popular tweet ever. Just that one video. It's
I
crazy.
think I think people who did resonate with a Clive and Wrench who now like who follow you and stuff like that on Twitter, and then I think it's gonna reach that audience. I think this one will reach the people who want to play it probably faster than Clive and Wrench did, just because you got that first game out.
Yeah, maybe it's kind of like a proven track record, and people go,
Yeah,
"Oh, it's actually going to happen."
right. Yeah, yeah. At least you got the one game out, so it's people can get
Yeah,
get
exactly.
hyped a little bit easier and stuff. Well, um, it was awesome talking to you, man. Get a little bit of
Yeah, you
insight
too.
on your process development, Clive and Wrench, and the new project with Flit, and maybe we can do it again sometime. It's pretty cool.
Sure. Yeah, yeah.
maybe when Flit releases, I can talk to you again about that.
Okay, so 2033, yeah.
2033. Another 10 years. Well, it's good talking to you, man. Have a good day. I'll talk to you later.
Yeah, you too. Yeah, take care.